Hi everyone, welcome back to the sew along. By now you have already printed your pattern and you've also taped it together for me, and you've also cut out all your pattern pieces. Now there's a couple of things that I just wanted to chat with you before we actually start laying out the fabric and cutting our pattern out. And that is again for our new dressmakers that's joining for the sew along. On all your pattern pieces there's certain markings that you've got to look for. Now first off, there's notches. Now if you look at the photo I'm showing you, the notches is that little triangle that we've got on the seams, and that is really important that you go and mark that for me. Now we usually let's put it that way, I would go and just nip into my fabric, but this pattern specifically we've only got a 1/4 inch, or they say 7mm, but 1/4 inch has always been for me 6mm. So we've only got a 6mm seam allowance, so it's a really tiny seam allowance. So I won't just go and nip into the fabric, because if you nip in too far and you've got to sew, you're going to get little holes in your, on the seams where you're actually sewing. So please go and look for me where those notches are. Maybe just put a pin in there. You can go and you can even cut a triangular so that it's more to the outside of the seam. Sometimes what I do, I just put a piece of masking tape on my fabric on that area, and I just go mark the notch as well. So that is what I usually do. It's either my chalk, I nip it in, and if I can't nip in and if I'm scared the chalk is not going to stay on, then like I said, I would just take a tiny little piece of masking tape, I'll put it onto my seam, and I'll just then mark it with my marker on there so that I know where my notches are. And another thing that you've got to look for, you've got on the front pattern piece, just take your front pattern piece out for me and have a look where the pocket is as well. All over this pattern piece you've got marks, so you've got the pocket placement. Please go and mark that for me as well. And again, you can go and do it with your chalk, and as I said, my easy way out is really just a piece of masking tape sometimes on these fabrics that I do if I know my chalk mark is not going to stay on there. But we've also got, remember, we've also got our friction pens which will iron off, so if you've got a friction pen you can use it. There's so many things you can mark with, and I'm sure you've already got a little bit of your tools that you are using. So please make sure that you notice where are all your notches and your marks that you need to mark. Now the second thing that I do want you to also do is to please go highlight certain areas for me. We've got a lot of pattern pieces here, and a lot of them are on the fold, and what I've done with mine, and it's just, I've got like a purple, I'll show you the photo as well, I've got a purple highlighter. So I just really went there and I said where it says cut 2 mirrored, or cut 1 or cut 2 on the fold, because there's a lot of them that's actually cut 2 on the fold, and I don't want you to make a mistake and only cut 1 piece out, and when we start sewing you're actually short of a pattern piece and you don't have fabric anymore. So make sure to highlight that for me as well, so that as you're working with the pattern pieces and you're laying it out, you know I'm only going to cut that pattern piece once on a double layer or on the fold, or I'm going to cut it twice. So please make sure to mark that for me as well. It's just the writing on these pattern pieces are very tiny, so I just don't want us to make a mistake. Now also you would have noticed these different lengths. Now we've got the cropped cardigan, you've got your normal, or I think they call it classic cardigan length, they've got the long length, and they've got the duster as well. So decide what length you want to make. I'm going to do the long cardigan, which will be, I think, just above my knee. So I've already cut off at the bottom line because I know I'm not going to make a duster. If you know you're going to make all the sizes, I'm going to suggest that you just fold your pattern piece under, but I cut mine out. I think I just want to see if I've got it here, but even if that part that I've cut off, I will usually go right on it and say it's the front bottom or the back bottom, and I do put that in the envelope with my other pattern pieces that maybe in a year's time I decide I do want a duster. Maybe I lose enough weight that I feel I can wear a duster. So then I'll put it in there so I don't have to go reprint everything again. So this one also I've just taped it here because I just wanted to show you it's this section. So I'm going to make the long cardigan, not the duster or the classic or cropped. I think I'll do those ones later. Another thing also, put the pattern pieces aside that you're not going to use. If you look at your smaller pattern pieces, there's, for instance, for the short sleeve, there's a band for the short sleeve. There's a band, it's like the cuff for the 3/4 sleeve and there's one for the long sleeve as well. So just put the two away that you're not going to use. If you are going 3/4 sleeve, just use the cuff or the band for that relevant sleeve that you're going to cut. So I'm doing the long sleeve as well, so I'm going to put those two aside. And then another thing to notice on the band as well, for the bottom band, you've got one band which is for the classic and the long cardigan, and then you've got one band, bottom band, which is for the cropped cardigan. So for now I'm just putting that aside so I don't sit with the extra pattern pieces. So I think I know I've got all my pattern pieces, and I've got the front neck band, and I've got my sleeve also. It's actually on that side. So when I'm going to cut it out, another tip that I wanted to share with you, and I'm going to take you through laying out your pattern pieces now, but always make sure that you lay out basically all your pattern pieces to make sure you're going to have enough fabric, especially if you're taking fabric from your stash. Now when I did my initial layout, I don't have enough fabric to do my bottom band on the fold. So all I'm going to do, I'm still going to cut it out, but I've got to add seam allowance where that fold was for the center back. I'm just going to have to give it a seam. There's nothing else I can do with that. If I might decide along the way that I'm going to maybe not do a band, but for now I can cut it out. And as I said, I'm going to cut it out as two pieces instead of on the fold. So please, if you are in that situation, always remember, wherever I have to then not cut on the fold, add seam allowance, otherwise your band is going to be too short. I'm going to lay out the fabric now. So there's one or two things that I just wanted to mention to you. Now we are going to just fold the fabric in half because we've got the back on the fold, but the front is going to be cut as two pattern pieces. If I had a front and a back which is on the fold, I would have folded my fabric differently, and I would have actually brought in a piece of fabric from this side and a piece from that side so that I've got two folds. But with this one, it's our back that's on the fold, so I'm just going to fold my fabric in half. The next thing that I want you to please take note of, because we do want you to cut it correctly, is that the maximum stretch is going around the body. It usually runs from selvage to selvage if you look at my stretch. So that is important to check, because I have bought a couple of knit fabrics or stretch fabrics where the maximum stretch wasn't running horizontally and from selvage to selvage. Because of the pattern, they actually had the stretch vertically. It hardly had any stretch horizontally. So please make sure that you look at your fabric, whichever is going to be your maximum stretch. That is the piece that we want, or the stretch must go around your body. So please make sure that you do that. Now we are going to just put our selvages together, and I want you to just move your fabric so that it's nice and flat. So let's just see. No, mine is lying flat. So let's go and do that. And all you're going to do, really, I keep lifting mine. I love working on my table, and I keep lifting it, and I keep moving the selvage down and making sure selvages are on top of each other. And again, I will just, that little part, grab it, and I just smooth it over the table, making sure it stays together. Now, if you are worried that you're not going to get it perfect on the selvage, you can go pin the selvage now a little bit so that when I'm lifting it, it's staying together. If you've got wonder clips, you can clip the clips on there as well, the selvages, just to make sure it's not moving off. I really want this to be even. If it's not even, if our fabric starts going a little bit skew, you will find that your garment will twist around your body. Now, I'm sure all of you have bought a t-shirt at some stage, and with that t-shirt, the side seams are twisting. As soon as you washed it, it's going to twist. So you've got to now make sure that everything is evenly laid out, because as soon as I'm going off the selvage and my fabric starts going a little bit skew, that's when the twist is going to happen, when I lay out my pattern on that and I sew it. So just take a little bit of time and do this for me, and we're going to lay this out, and then we are going to put our pattern pieces on, and I'm just going to show you how to put your pattern pieces on so that you know, again, you're not going to get a twist. and then we can start cutting out our fabric. We're going to start laying out our pattern pieces on the fabric now. Now, one thing that I want you to do before you lay it out, look at your pattern pieces. You will see a grain line. Now, the grain line is basically a straight line, and it's got 2 arrow points for us on the top and the bottom. Now, they don't have a very long grain line, so I want you to go and extend it, because I want you to make sure that you are laying out the fabric perfectly on your fabric. We don't want to be slightly off, because as soon as we are slightly off, we can get that the fabric is going to twist around our body, or the seam is going to twist, which is going to be very uncomfortable. You'll forever be pulling on your garment. You will find also when this usually happens is, I don't know if any of you have ever bought even a pair of pants and it feels like the hem is twisting. I've definitely bought a t-shirt before and it twisted. It didn't do it the first time, but after a wash, the seams twisted around the body. Now that is what's going to happen if we're not going to put our pattern pieces correctly on the fabric. Now, wherever you can, if you've got big pieces, please go extend that grain line. I've also done it on there. And this is for me now to go measure from my grain line to, I'm going to measure to my selvage. If I was on the other side, I would measure to my fold. But we've got to make sure that we are laying the pattern out correctly. As soon as I'm going to be slightly skew like that, I'm going to pick up a problem with how the garment is going to hang on my body. So please don't skip this section. And it's surprising, actually, when I did classes in my shop as well, how many people skipped this section that just didn't go and measure the grain line. So if I'm going to measure to selvage, I've got 39 centimeters, and I'm going to take it there, and I'm slightly off. So I know that I'm just going to move this a little bit. And this is where my pattern weights come in. I start putting my pattern weights down so that my pattern is not moving around too much. So let's see, and I'm measuring again. Sorry, I moved it the wrong direction. We want to come closer to this way. So let's see, I've got 38. I've got 38 and a half. So I've just got to move it that little bit. Let's see now. So can you see I keep going back? This is really for me the most important part of cutting out our fabric. I'm just checking. I'm still a little bit out. And I'm someone now, I will keep going and going until I've got this perfect, and there I'm happy with that. Now, I don't like putting pins through my patterns in my fabric. I find sometimes that when we're pinning, we're lifting the fabric a bit, and my bottom fabric always moves a little bit. So I always work with pattern weights. If you are going to be pinning, please don't go and lift the fabric up too high, and also don't go and do hundreds of pins all the way around. You really just need to keep this pattern piece from moving. So you can put a pin over there, a pin there, pin there and there. Sometimes if I'm really working with certain fabrics, I won't even do so many. I will go and put a pin on the grain line there, and maybe one in the bottom, one there. I'm working with a rotary cutter when I cut out as well. I'll show you just now. Now these pattern weights are what I love using. They've got little pins at the bottom, so I'm going to see if I can come in so you can see. Look at the pins that it's, let's see if you can see it. So it does have those little pins that are really sharp. So what I like to do, I put them down and I just push them through my pattern into the fabric, and I know this fabric and pattern is not going to be moving. So I love doing those ones. And then these are my extra ones that I have. So that was my placements. I'm on the fold for the back. We're cutting to front, and that is why it's important. Please make sure that you went and highlighted this for me, especially if you're a beginner. You want to know how many of each pattern piece you've got to cut out. Now I've got that one there as well, so let's have a look. I've still got some more grain lines that is running this way, so I can go put all these pattern pieces where I've got my grain line. I can go lay it out, but please make sure wherever there's a fold that you notice that fold. You can even go highlight the fold for me. And I'm really I'm concentrating a lot on our beginners as well, because I've had a lot of people contacting me that's beginner dressmakers and that's asked for more basics. So that's why I keep repeating, make sure it's on the fold. So I will really just cut out the section that I can cut out, and then I will refold my fabric so that I don't waste any fabric. You can either go and cut out with your scissors, or you can use a rotary cutter. So I'm just going to cut this one pattern out just so you can see how I'm cutting it out. These ones, obviously, I'm going to do off camera. I will go and make sure, because I've got enough fabric here, so I can put all of these ones that I need to cut like that. I can go put there for my pockets. So both of them says cut 2, so I can go cut that afterwards. So let me just show you. I'm just thinking, I don't know how to angle my camera just to show you the cutting out, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. But can you see I'm just going all the way around my pattern? And with this one, what I love about this rotary cutter, for me with arthritis in my wrists and my hands, it just takes a lot of stress off my hands because I'm working like this. So I'm just going to cut around here as well, just to show you. Can you see how smoothly it goes through? If it's chomping on your fabric, it's time for a new blade. So I've just gone and put a new blade in for myself. So I don't even need a lot of pressure as I'm cutting. So I can just go and cut out these areas. Now, like I mentioned, you want to go and mark your notches. For now, because I'm working on camera, I am going to just fold my pattern piece up. I will get my chalk later on and I will mark my notches. I've got a white chalk that I work with, which works perfectly for me. So I will go and just mark it after I've cut out all my pattern pieces. So I'm just going to take this one like that. And then what I do, as I said, because I've still got to do my notches, I can just lay it out on it again. I'm just going to fold it up so I can move to my next pattern piece. So let me cut out the back, and then I'm going to just fold my fabric again and show you how I place the rest of the pattern pieces. But remember, also in your tutorial that you downloaded, they do have information for you on how to lay out your fabric, and they do show you nicely with images what you've got to do with the layout of the patterns. Now I'm just folding enough fabric over so that my sleeve will fit, and all I'm going to do, again, I'm measuring now from this selvage area. There's my selvage. I'm going to measure from the selvage, and I'm measuring to the fold, and it gives me 41 centimeters. You've got to make sure that you are I'm still on 41. If it's not, you've got to make sure that you keep moving your fabric. As I'm measuring from the selvage to fold here where I'm working, and I can see I can do the bottom part a little bit more, you want to make sure it is even, because again, remember, we don't want anything twisting around our body. So let's go through this process. Let's just move it a little bit there. I'm 41, but I've got it nice and even here where I'm going to do my sleeve. So I can see I'm just fitting my sleeve in. Next step is go and measure your grain line. I'm getting 24. I just want to put a weight so I'm not moving my pattern piece. And I'm on 24 there, so I'm actually quite happy with that as well. So I'm going to now first just cut this one out. I actually just need 2, that's more than enough. And I'm going to cut this out. Then I can refold my fabric for all the other pieces. That is all I need you to do for me now, is make sure that your pattern pieces are cut out correctly, that you've actually marked your notches and all the markings that you have for placements of the pockets, for placements of the bands as well. And then from there we can actually just start sewing on Tuesday. Now if you've got any questions, or if you're not sure about anything, always go back to that tutorial, look at it, or you can also email me at alsabi@surefordesigns.co.za, and then I will just respond and I'll help you as well. Now if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please go and look at the bottom on the right hand corner of your screen where it says subscribe, and just go subscribe so that you can get the updates as soon as I load all these videos, so that you can start sewing with me. So until Tuesday, have a lovely rest of the weekend, and I'll see you then.